My name's Andrew Hood. I'm an author, and today I'm having an interview with Bradley Shaw, who is the Managing Director of Shawline Publishing Group. And I have 10 questions that I think a lot of authors would love to get answers to. So I want to thank you for your time, Bradley. Thank you for joining the interview and spending time with us today.
You're most welcome. Thanks for asking.
All right. My first question, are all publishers the same? And how, if not, how are they different? It's a big question to start with.
It is quite involved. I think every publishing, there's different levels, agency and publisher. Publishing has changed a lot in the last 30 to 40 years, that's for sure. So I think historically people recognize traditional publishing as the publishing industry, as an identifiable entity. They produce mass books, they create mass sales profiles and promotions in stores, so they're always in your, they've got a lot more backing, they're a lot more established as well, so they have resources that help the industry. But they also have a very small funnel for authors to gain access to, and that's probably where in the last 20 years more predominantly you've seen the shift into a self-publishing, or what they call a vanity publishing vein. So everything sort of changed into that level, which was more publishing became, I guess, an access of independent or individuals could publish themselves. The internet became a big access and resource to that.
Yep.
But then that created another funnel of mass production of lesser quality. So what happened was the evolution was we had an overwhelm of self-published books that didn't present the quality, so resellers had to restrict their access and traditional publishers had to control the market again by filtering through and keeping credibility, and that's what authors began to lack in the self-publishing industry.
Yeah.
Then there was, not so long ago, an industry created, or a piece of that created, which is a midstream called hybrid publishing.
Okay.
And that's where the author and a publishing agency that recognises the effectiveness of the marketing, the strategy of quality, the strategy of services needed, and the author work together in a partnership to develop the book into the marketplace and put it into a position that recognises the author's credibility and puts it into affordable and desirable outside of the self-published tsunami, and still keeping it within the means of author credibility and profile, I guess you'd say, of developing that writing style. So that has become another level, which is more, again, controlling the self-publishing and helping self-published authors gain access to mediums they don't get.
So I guess we had this big industry, right? If I just summarize that, we had this big industry that could keep control of the quality, but in doing so, they were only able to let a certain amount of talent shine through or go through the process. And then the internet allowed this expanse of everybody who wanted to publish a book could. But the problem is maybe some of them shouldn't, or didn't have the same quality, which then caused this issue, which is where that middle ground has sprung up.
Well, that's right. And I think the challenge too for self-publishing and the internet was that there was a lot of vulnerability also created for authors that they didn't know about, and a lot of people got caught out, especially from foreign entities, like countries access other countries without the legal precedence of publication rights. And other things that open doors, like Pandora's box, really, and a lot of authors get stung with no receipts, no royalties, no control over the developments, and it really, So I think the hybrid industry created a different type of strategy where they could focus on local development of authors and work within the local laws of a country, and it restricted a lot of access overseas, which was good for controlling, again, a portion of the publications that were in the market.
Are there things that authors should be wary about when they're searching for a publisher? Like when they pull up that list of 50 publishers on Google and they intend to, contact every single one of them. Is there something that should they have some sort of filter that they use first?
Yes, I do believe they should. For me, I would recommend or encourage them to look at transparency, how contactable the company is, how upfront and forthright they are. And that's important, because if you're putting something of yours in trust to someone and you can't communicate with them, like needing answers, effective response, clear, there's a lot of challenges for authors in the marketplace. They're going to get hit with a lot of thoughts, and it's isolating. So a publisher should be as supporting as possible. So I think transparency and communication are important.
Yep, great.
I think the legality too, the structure of their professional presence on the marketplace as well, it falls under transparency. So as long as their legal documentation's in place, and I guess what their alignment to your goals as well. So I think authors should be involved in the process of publishing. I think you should have a say in being published. And I think the author needs to be able to request that and understand that, and make sure that part of the agency's operation is available to the author. The commission, the royalty return is available and high to the author. But also the marketing. The agency has the establishment and placements to really not just put online and post it like anyone else can do on their own, but really have placements at bookstores or areas where books can be found clearly and within credible places. So those aspects, I think credibility, transparency and legality are important. And the marketing concept, do they just print the book and then give you a PDF on how to do it yourself, or do they do it for you? So what elements you need as a writer to get yourself out there in the market?
That's great. That's good advice. So let's turn it back on to you and your company. What do you look for when you're looking at authors when they approach you? What sort of values are you looking for? Is it all about the book? Is it about the author? Is it, where do you focus?
To be honest, it is for us as an agency. It's about the author's attitude. I think the less pretentious and less ignorant they portray themselves being, is the more potential they've got to align to a collaborative force and create that benefit for themselves into the market. I think if they have the pretext they want to make a lot of money and have a bestseller and they want to be the biggest and best, and they've got things locked in their mind because they've done some internet research and the gospel's told them that this is the way that they should do it, and they don't agree with the publisher's alignment, then that makes it very tricky for us. And we don't really need the challenges. If the author has these things they want, they can't get from us, then that's fine. They go, there's others out there that probably will. So for us, it's really about the personality and the knowledge or the attitude of the author, because we want to build our author profile first. Because if we have a good author profile and we have a good impression, and they're friendly and they're sociable at book signings and they're keen just to be involved, then we have a higher level of success initially, regardless of the book's sales, because the first step are getting an author profile out there. It's like Henry Ford used to say, is he doesn't sell cars, he sells the brand of Ford. It's about having the image of the author created, and then just sort of become a part of reader's identity to that author. We don't know every Stephen King book, but we see his name in a bookstore and we go, Stephen King.
We know what that's about. We know his brand. And I think that was an interesting thing for me when I was first looking around, is that I had a lot of, publishers were prepared to talk to me and have a discussion with me, and it seemed to take more precedence than the book itself. And I was sort of like, well, what about the book? How great is the book? And they're like, we'll get to the book, but we're just getting to know you. And that was quite an interesting aspect.
The thing is, you can create the product. If the person has the right attitude and there's enough elements in the book's information, you can get an editor, you can keep working on it for 6 months until it's right. You can create the cover, you can create variables, you can create profiles of marketing, but everything stops that as soon as you put that author in front of a radio station or a TV station or in other writers groups, and they're doing a speech and their attitude just comes across as pure arrogance, detested, unacceptable, or they're politically incorrect, or they're just not the right fit for themselves in an authorship profile.
But some of them might think that their job's done, right? They've written the book, they give it to the publisher, and then they count the cash. Is that how it works?
Well, that's what John Steinbeck did. So, he refused interviews. He disappeared after his first book, and he just went, I'm out.
Just send the checks to this address. Thanks very much.
And got movie rights, he got everything, became synonymous as being infamous, and that was his biggest. He wrote one book, but his attitude sold it a different way. But I don't think that works for every writer.
The reality is not that way.
He did write a good book, so the evidence was in his talent, but his attitude was probably not the best for a marketing profile.
Sure.
In today's competitive edge, your attitude is everything. It's not just about being online. You've got to be prepared to be offline and really step up. And I think that's where we look at authors in that capacity. And not saying that every author has to have a certain dynamic. It's just attitude. It can be simple, it can be pleasant, it can be open and work with. But yeah, all at the end of the day, we're all in it to make a little bit of money back and just have a little bit of presence in the market. So.